There is a pane of glass separating you from reality. If you walk down the high street of any major Western metropolis today, you are witnessing a hallucination. On one side of the glass, inside the shop windows and on the glowing tickers of news terminals, the graph line is green. The S&P 500 is defying gravity, unemployment is statistically invisible, and the GDP is technically expanding. But if you turn your head and look at the reflection in that glass, you see the truth. You see it in the hauled-out eyes of the commuter, calculating if they can afford meat this week. You see it in the for lease signs spreading like black mold across commercial districts. You feel a vibration in the pavement, a low-frequency hum of anxiety that contradicts every official press release. This is not a recovery. This is the calm before a specific mathematical inevitability. The ground beneath the global economy is not just shifting. It is liquefying. We are not merely entering a recession, we are arriving at the expiration date of an economic experiment that began 15 years ago. To understand why the collapse is scheduled for 2025 and 2026, you must ignore the noise of supply chains and geopolitical skirmishes and focus on the single most critical price in human history, the price of money. For centuries, interest rates acted as the immune system of capitalism. They were the gravitational force that ensured bad ideas failed and good ideas thrived. If a business could not generate enough profit to pay the cost of capital, it died. Its resources were released to be used by someone more competent. This was the brutal but necessary cycle of creative destruction. But in 2008, facing a financial heart attack, the central bankers of the world decided to play God. They turned off the immune system. They slashed rates to zero, and in doing so, they flooded the patient with morphine. This was the ZIRP era, zero interest rate policy. It was sold to us as emergency medicine, a temporary bridge to get us through the night. But the addict never put down the needle. For 15 years, money was free. This distortion of reality created the everything bubble. When you cannot earn yield in a savings account, you are forced to gamble. Trillions of dollars flowed into speculative assets, inflating real estate, stocks, and digital tokens into the stratosphere. But the most toxic byproduct of this era was not the bubbles. It was the birth of the zombie corporation. These are companies that are effectively dead but refuse to lie down. They earn just enough revenue to pay the interest on their loans, but never the principal. In the healthy economy, they would be liquidated. In the ZIRP economy, they were allowed to feast on cheap credit, rolling over their debts year after year, consuming labor and capital while producing nothing of value. By 2024, nearly 1 in 5 companies in the Western world fit this description. They are ticking time bombs, rigged to explode the moment money costs money again. And that moment has arrived. The inflation shock of the post-pandemic world forced central banks to slam on the brakes, raising rates at the fastest pace in 40 years. The morphine drip has been ripped out. The patient is waking up screaming. And now we face the maturity wall. This is the event horizon. Trillions of dollars in corporate and commercial real estate debt taken out when rates were near zero are coming due in 2025 and 2026. These loans must be refinanced. But the window at the bank no longer offers 2% interest. It demands 7%, 8%, or more. The mathematics of survival have changed overnight. A zombie company that could tread water at 2% is instantly drowned at 7%. We are already seeing the first structural failures in the commercial real estate sector. Office towers in San Francisco, New York, and London, once the crown jewels of investment portfolios, are trading for pennies on the dollar. This is not a market fluctuation. It is a repricing of reality. The work-from-home revolution didn't just empty the desks, it destroyed the financial model of the modern city. But the owners of these buildings are playing a dangerous game of extend and pretend. They are hiding the losses, hoping rates will fall before the loans mature. They won't. When the refinancing papers are signed, the insolvency will become official. Keys will be mailed back to lenders, and this is where the contagion spreads. The entities holding these toxic loans are not the giants like JP Morgan, they are the regional banks. These small to mid-sized institutions sit on the vast majority of commercial real estate debt. When the landlords default, the bank's balance sheets implode. We saw a tremor of this with Silicon Valley Bank, but that was merely a preview. The earthquake arrives when the $1.5 trillion maturity wall hits. If regional banks fail, the credit arteries of the real economy are severed. Small businesses lose access to capital. Payrolls are missed. Unemployment spikes. It creates a doom loop where the failure of the banks drags down the tax revenue of the government, which is already borrowing money just to pay the interest on its own insurmountable debt. This brings us to the trilemma. The central banks are trapped in a three-sided box with no exit. They cannot lower rates to save the zombies without reigniting hyperinflation. They cannot keep rates high to fight inflation without crashing the banking system and the government's solvency. And they cannot bail out the system of tax dollars because the voters are already broken. The ammunition is gone. The playbook from 2008 is burning. When a government runs out of economic solutions, it inevitably turns to political ones. We are transitioning from the era of market management to the era of financial repression. The goal is no longer to grow the economy. It is to control the collapse. The authorities know that the $315 trillion global debt pile can never be repaid in honest money. It must be liquidated. It says they cannot default without destroying the social contract. They must inflate it away while locking the exits. This is the true purpose of the central bank digital currency, or CBDC. Do not be fooled by the marketing. The digital dollar or digital euro is not a convenient upgrade to your banking app. It is a surveillance grid disguised as money. In our current system, if you lose trust in the bank, you can withdraw cash. You can take your capital and hide it under a mattress. That option is the ultimate check on tyranny. A CBDC eliminates that option. With programmable money, you are trapped in the ledger. If the economy slows, the central bank can impose negative interest rates, effectively taxing your savings daily to force you to spend. If supply chains fracture, they can ration what you are allowed to buy. It transforms currency from a store of value into a system of social engineering. We're already seeing the soft launch of this control grid limits on cash transactions, the debanking of political dissidents, the tightening of the digital net. The collapse of the regional banking system in 2025 will be the perfect crisis to justify the implementation of this solution. They will say it is to protect your deposits. In reality, it is to fence in your capital. This shifts the fundamental psychology of wealth. For 40 years, investors chased return on capital. In the coming era, the only goal is return of capital. The smartest money in the room, the sovereign wealth funds, the family offices, the billionaires, is already moving. They are exiting the financialized casino of stocks and bonds. They are buying farmland, energy infrastructure, and gold. They are buying things that cannot be printed. They understand that when the paper valuation of the world resets, only assets with physical utility and scarcity will remain standing. The standard of living in the West, artificially propped up by cheap debt and cheap imports, is reverting to the mean. We are becoming poorer, but the nominal numbers will be manipulated to hide the decline. We are heading toward a bifurcation of the economy. On one side, the official, white market, digital, surveillance-heavy, taxed and controlled. On the other, a gray market, barter, precious metals, decentralized crypto, and under-the-table labor. The trust in institutions is evaporating. When that trust finally breaks, the economy doesn't just recede, it fragments. The maturity wall of 2025 is the catalyst. The banking crisis is the mechanism. The digital dollar is the trap. The question you must answer is not if this will happen. The math has already decided that. The question is, where will your wealth be located when the music stops? Will it be a digital entry on a government server, or will it be something you can hold in your hand? History has a way of rhyming in the most terrifying ways. In 1933, facing a similar banking collapse, the U.S. government didn't just print money, they confiscated it. Executive Order 6102 made it a felony for an American citizen to own gold. They seized the real wealth of the population to recapitalize a bankrupt system. In our next broadcast, we are going to uncover the suppressed history of the Great Gold Seizure, the secret prosecutions, and the legal loopholes the wealthy used to escape. We will reveal the terrifying legal precedents that exist today that could allow for the seizure of your Bitcoin, gold, and retirement accounts during a national emergency. You need to know if your safe is actually safe. Click the like button to signal you are paying attention, and subscribe so you don't miss the history of the gold ban. I'll see you in the vault.